What's up, everybody?
Hey, y'all.
Jason will edit that last one. What's up, everybody?
Hey, y'all. Hello.
All right, why don't you just introduce yourself? Yeah.
I'm Keena.
Yep.
I'm Drea.
Drew.
And I'm Bree.
There we go. You know what I'm saying? We're back for the second ever podcast. TBD podcast we're still at.
So far.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, that acronym is to be determined.
Yeah, because we have not come up with a name that we can actually legitimately use.
Yeah.
Because the ones that we like, we're vibing with other great minds because they already have those names.
Yeah. And they say great minds think alike.
Yeah.
So the more transparent, the more vulnerable you can be, the more specific, the more authentic, the more raw you can be, the better understanding people will have of you. And we talked about last week, like at the end of the day, you know, if somebody sees you in a negative light, you know, most of the times they're resonating a part of you with them that they probably should work on, right? But then learning how to disconnect, like if you know you're being your rawest version of yourself, the most authentic version of yourself, and you're living by your values and your beliefs, then learning to keep moving. And people, I always say this, you know, whether you're religious or spiritual or not, like they say in the Christian belief that, you know, Jesus walked on water, but I'm sure people were throwing him stones because he couldn't fly. Someone's always going to pick
find something.
one of a million things that they dislike about themselves and see it within you.
Yes.
And they're going to shun you for it.
Yeah.
They're going to discredit you. They're going to slander your name. They're going to bring you down.
But it's also other people's own, like, say you have something you don't like about Drew, just for happenstance. But you may have heard that through the grapevine from a different person. Now that has imprinted itself on you, and now you have a completely different, like, mindset towards Drew based on what somebody else has said. And that's the up thing about social media. One person or one celebrity or even one just regular person can form a perspective on a certain person, and that will just flood everybody's feed, right?
Yeah.
So you see it, I see it, boom, you might have a whole different perspective on that one person based on what that other person said.
Yeah.
Person A said this, cool, I can kind of see what they're talking about. You know, I might not like a certain thing about you. She also said that I don't like something about you. Boom.
Yeah.
Now I really don't like you based off of what other people's perspectives are of you. So you kind of have to, like, brush it off. You know, obviously everyone's not going to like you. You know,
he does a really good job at that too. I think that's one thing that you taught me is that, you know, when people have negative things to say about other people that you're connecting with, you're like, I want to see that for myself. Versus allowing their thoughts and opinions about that person to impact what you feel and what you'd like to do with them. And I think that that's helped shape a lot of the relationships that I have with everybody at this moment. Just being able to decide for me.
If not based on anything else.
Well, and, you know, I'm having kind of like an epiphany sitting here by you, and I'm thankful that you're here on the podcast today. And now, like, I'm thinking about going forward and envisioning the way we communicate, right? Your words on paper, they're very well articulated. That creates a lot of emotion. I really resonate with how specific you are in the way you write. So I really want to know from a writer's perspective, because you've been writing since you were what? How old would you say?
8, 9.
8, you know, right?
Elementary school,
And are you come from a background of, you know, being dismissed as a child and learning to not have that voice, you know, helped influence you being just an incredible writer, right? And not to use the word hierarchy, but like you create so much emotion with your writing.
Impact.
Yeah, you provide so much value and impact in your writing that I really, you know, not only as your fiance, but like just as an organism to an organism, I want your perspective and your view on word hierarchy. Like when you hear good, bad, you know, pretty, ugly, like how does that like make you feel? You know, do you feel like the need to speak up on that and be more specific because you have that talent and that ability? Like, what's just your perception when you hear these word hierarchy words now that we have more of an understanding of what it is?
Well, I will first say that when Andrew first brought that to me, I was just like, why is it such a big deal? And that was an opportunity for growth for me, right? Because I was just like, it's good, bad. I mean, people have different perspectives of good and bad, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
But then the more I started to pay attention to how often I said good and how often I said bad, I was like, they're filler words. They're filler. And so I even find myself doing that with Asen. Normally I'd be like, good job, Asen, when he's doing something. But now I'm like, oh, Asen, you are doing a really nice job figuring out how to, navigate, through the living room or whatever the case is. And I'm expanding on it. So it's not just good job, Asen.
Right.
Yeah.
Good job, Alicia. It's not just a good job. And so even today, like thanking my employees for just being there today, it wasn't just saying, good job, you guys, handling all of the overflow of the staff. It was like, thank you so much for showing up today, for being present today. And they were like, oh my God, Drea, thank you so much for being here too. Like, and so it was good. It was very.
It was what?
It was. Thank you for holding me accountable. Thank you for holding me accountable. But we do that.
You're welcome for holding you accountable.
But he does that too. He's been doing that a lot more.
We were talking about that the other day. Me and him were talking about y'all holding each other accountable. He was like, if she doesn't hold me accountable, she don't love me.
Remember
uncomfortable.
I told you, I was like, if she doesn't hold me accountable in the moment, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Sorry for the tapping. I get livid. Livid is a description.
Oh yeah, that's always.
I become like, remember? So we'll share it. I'll thank you for your perspective, by the way. Recently we had some type of argument or debate. Something transpired, disagreed on it. Then another moment happened an hour later. Just another debate or something transpired, was a disagreement. And in that moment, she wanted to talk about, I'm gonna say A and B for disagreements. She wanted to talk about disagreement B, and then bring in disagreement A. And I had no knowledge of disagreement A. So I was like, hold on. I was like, let me just receive this information correctly about what's transpiring, right? And I'm like, this is what you're saying, and you're also saying this. That's right? That's correct? And you're like, yes. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me about disagreement A when that happened? And I don't remember what your response was. Were you quiet? I don't remember. Were you reflecting?
I was trying to reflect in that moment. I'm always telling him to give me
think about why
I always tell him to give me a minute because he'll put me on the spot. And I was like, I need to think about that. So let's come back to it. Just give me a minute.
And I love that you've been vulnerable and able to do that and process. Because you're a longer processor than I am. A duration of minutes, that's not a hierarchy. No, it takes her time to process.
I take time too.
I have to thoroughly reflect.
Yeah. See, me, I'm like, you could cut me, stab me, throw a book at me, be upset, yell, demean me, degrade me. I could process those feelings, evaluate, reflect, and then an hour later we're at dinner. And I'm like, life gotta go. Like, we still gotta move forward.
He's totally
like myself completely from the situation. Do my reflection somewhere else where I'm not going to potentially bring the Taurus out and just with the horns, because I can get really hot real quick, so, and I know that about myself, luckily, that I don't want to just jump into a potential argument as opposed to, all right, he said that particular thing. Let me just maneuver for a quick minute, It could be even like me taking myself out on a little date, like going to have dinner by myself, but to really actually like sit there and like reflect, think about what words were said and how I would like to either rebut or come back to it or just to make it so it's not necessarily an argument but actually a conversation because I will jump to an argument so quick but I know that so I know I need to like take myself away and then come back and do it calmly.
I want to deliberately interrupt you because I just want to wrap up the story.
No, you're good.
So the end of the story was us in the kitchen. I was like, do you remember when we were at a space where it'd be like, you're this, you're that, you're causing me to be mad, you do this, oh, you do all these things, all this you stuff. Now we're so I, where I'm in the kitchen and I'm whispering in your ear, I'm like, isn't it ironic how we coach each other so much and we call each other out so much on our sugar honey iced tea that when we don't do it, we become disappointed and upset that we're not holding each other accountable. Before we couldn't do that. And now we do it 8, 10, 15 times a day. You know what I mean?
Right.
We've even removed the I shouldn't have to tell you out of our vocabulary. Because that's not fair. And we were talking about that too. Every 3 years we change, every 3 years we grow, every 3 years we develop. We love each other unconditionally, but we do it differently, right? You elevate, right?
Evolve together.
So it's like the behavior of coaching each other and holding accountable, we never want that to stop.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
okay, going back. I just want to finish that up.
I was done. Like that
We've
was
just
an interruption. That was
perfect.
That was done.
But that's another thing to call out. You know, we talk about word hierarchy and all these like dismissive, vague, general things. Like in our relationship, we've really learned how to like no longer speak in fragmented sentences.
Oh yeah,
you know, remember there's a beginning, there's a middle, and then there's an end. And if I'm going to speak an idea and then you're going to interrupt me, and then you're going to speak an idea and then I'm going to interrupt you, well then all of a sudden we're going through all these variables and all these open doors, and like I don't even remember if I got through processing my thought and idea, and I lost it, but because I thought about it and we were still speaking, now I think I told you about it.
Too many layers.
Yeah, too many layers. Yeah.
Too many icing, too many frosting on the cake.
Yeah. And
now it's disgusting.
And Andrea knows I do it all the time with Anthony. I've been more stern with it. Like, I will speak to you and I will listen to you, but I refuse to speak in fragmented sentences with you.
He'll tell you that too.
Yeah,
You know?
he told me that when he did that.
I'll shut up and I'll listen, but I need you to reciprocate the energy.
Sometimes he does not. He'll do this.
Write it down.
Say something. And I was like, let me finish my thought first. Let me finish
He loves
my
the
thought
energy.
first. Yeah. But he does that all the time. He's always.
That's what Andrew does?
Yes, he will literally.
He covers his mouth.
Oh, sometimes I smack myself up.
I've got something.
And Andrea would be like, let me finish. Let me finish.
Because I don't want to lose my train of thought.
And you shouldn't.
But I feel like it's almost. Go for it.
No, I'm listening.
But it's such a habit,
I know.
right?
I feel like it's such a social norm nowadays. Like
Social
with
normality.
At least Americans. I don't know how it happens culturally anywhere else. But for Americans, it's very easy to be like, oh, she said something that I want to comment on. Whatever else she wants to say. Bam, I'm going to just jump right in. You're no longer relevant. It's all about what I have to say. You know, like whatever else was on your mind at that time, you probably forgot about, and then bam. Now the attention's on me because I interrupted you and I had something really important to say that just completely threw you off your game. And now whatever really important thing you had to say, not really important anymore.
Yeah.
Active listening.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Active listening. Go ahead.
Are you still going?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I want to talk about this. Can this has to be?
Yeah.
Okay. Active listening. So I want to talk about is listening and interrupting, right? Are they separate or are they together? Because Andrea one day was like, babe, you're not a good listener. And I was like, what? Triggered by that hierarchy word, right? And she was like, well, babe, you're not a strong listener. I was like, oh yeah, I know I'm not a strong listener. I'm working on it. And then we were sitting on the couch and I was like, wait a minute. No, I disagree with that. I was like, I'm a wonderful listener because when you give me information, I exceed expectations in her with listening, because when she gives me information and I'm listening, I hear it, I receive it, and then not only do I receive it, I demonstrate that by implementing it immediately, and I do it so rapid that sometimes it bothers her. She thinks I'm being smart, ASS. You know what I mean? She could, coach me on a behavior or habit. I'm like, perfect, I'm receiving this information, now I know, and then like the next 30 seconds, it's coming out somehow, some way. I figured out how to put it in anything that's happening, and I think, she's grown to be more accepting of the fact that, babe, you just process information really fast, and I'm not that same. But then I was like, so I was debating with her, so like, I am an interrupter. Oh, for sure, I interrupt people, but then I listen. So I want to, is interrupting and listening, like, is that hierarchy, or do people misunderstand what it actually is? What defines you as a person who has listening skills versus interrupting?
I'll say this. For one, I think that when she says you're not a strong listener, I think that if that's how she feels, that's how she feels, right?
Yeah.
You can disagree, or you can be curious about what it is that of her needs are not being met to make it not be, strong enough for her, right? Because again, if you're going to think about hierarchy and value, the question, whenever somebody says something that has a value to it, then it's going to be to who? To you. And so then what are your rules then? What are the steps that are missing for me? And so when I heard what you just now said, what I heard was Andrew skipped a step. Do you know what step you skipped to me with her? Is the step where you said, she tells me this, I process it, and then I go straight into action. But I did not hear the part where you said, I told her what I heard. I didn't hear that part.
That's a part of that.
And that's a step. It's a step. I know, I've had many conversations with guys, and I hate to generalize like this, but I know I've had many conversations with guys who get frustrated with that step because to them, it's just a waste of time. But to us, it's everything. Well, I won't say to us, but I'll say to people like me, to people like this girl, if I'm correct, that part where you say, this is what I heard, is everything. And also, when we say, sometimes the question is, do you want advice or do you want just somebody to listen? Because as a hairstylist, I'm gonna say this last sentence. As a hairstylist, as a hairstylist and like low key, like, and person who's got a degree in psychology, and a person who believes in going inward for the answers that you seek, sometimes if you don't need somebody to tell you what to do, so you just need somebody to listen so that you can arrive to the conclusion by just processing out loud. And me hearing you tell me what you heard me say is sometimes like, I'm gonna hear it, and I'm gonna find those answers sometimes in the process. Have you ever told somebody like that? And then was like, oh, I figured it out.
Yeah. A couple of things. It's interesting how like when you're in, even Andrea the other day had mentioned like, oh man, are you, like, is everything okay? Like, you just seem very fatigued, you seem very off, like, how was your day? And I was like, no, babe, my day was very fulfilling, I was very involved, I was very engaged. It was just right before you got home, I started to feel a little queasy, I didn't feel the best, and she's like, oh, well, my perception was that that's just how the day's been, because that's how you've been around me since 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So even like when you say like, oh, I didn't hear you say this, like there are many times in a relationship, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong, from your perspective, where I'm like, hey, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, or like, can you be clear and concise, like I'm not receiving this information very well right now. Like, what is the message that you want to send to me? And it helps you dig deeper. So that happens a lot in our relationship.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so a very healthy habit and behavior before we wrap up, because we're almost out of our time. We do this all the time. It's like, hey, babe, can I talk to you? And we'll be like, okay, well, are you going to dump or are you going to vent? Right? Dumpings that,
give me
spilling information, spilling problems, spilling other people's problems, and not, talking through that, what could have been done differently, that reflection, that ability to process and then evaluate or create a system or habit that we talk about, or behavior to do something differently, coaching, right? That's dumping. When none of that happens and you just pile on problems and gossip and talk about other people, that's dumping. Venting is, I'm going to talk to you about problems, I'm going to talk to you about emotions, and I want you to be engaged in that and understand some of these perspectives so you can help me work through some of these problems, so when they reoccur in the future, I have appropriate systems, or I have appropriate behaviors or habits that I can start implementing to solve the solution or work towards solving the solution. Even my Bluetooth, so I got this new Bluetooth by Plantronics, if you want to sponsor, you know what I'm saying? $1 million advice, But I got this for Christmas, and I'm on the phone, I'm like, oh shoot, I wish I had my Bluetooth with me, because I drove to Chicago recently, and I was like, man, 4 hours of driving, could I use the Bluetooth? And I told myself, I was like, you know what, like, don't beat yourself up. You just haven't developed the behavior or habit of grabbing that Bluetooth when you leave the house. Right? And that's solving problems of me not, being distracted by my phone, but hey, you have an incoming call. Would you like to answer that call? Yes or no? And I'm like, yes, answer the call. Answering call. And now, like, I keep it, I grab my phone and my Bluetooth everywhere I go, put in the charger. So now it's part of that habit of grabbing phone, grab Bluetooth. So I always have it even if I'm not using it. I don't even know why I started talking about Bluetooth, but I got there, Plantronics. You're welcome, But I was just really excited to like share some of those like resonations of everything you said, and I'm like even learning on our pie, like we're starting to like really the congruent energy, and I think in us being active listeners versus interrupting, I'm going to create a habit where I'm going to bring paper and pen or paper and pencil, and I'm just going to take mental note.
You can, or you can just flow.
No, it's great flow. It's what we've been doing. Yeah.
Wait, why are you raising your hand? I'm pointing.
She acting like Drew now.
Pointing at her
She
like,
acting like-
I'm not to interrupt, you know. I just
love it.
Before I forget, because y'all know my brain is not at 100%.
Everybody's,
right now.
you know.
So you know how you had active listening and interrupting.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, they coincide.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to you. You're venting or dumping or whatever to me, but to me showing you that I'm listening is interrupting you and kind of giving you some sort of validation that I'm listening to you. And then you correct. And then you keep going. And then I might interrupt you again, like, oh, well, how does that make you feel? Kind of like a therapist might interrupt you in mid-sentence and be like, well, how does that make you feel? Well, how did you get to that? How did this transpire? How did that? So it's not like, I mean, I guess you have to take it in terms of each individual. And you have to learn what their style of listening and their version of interrupting might be. Active listening for a certain person may not be complete silence while you vent or dump or whatever. It may be for me where I have to find a way to kind of validate what you're saying or to confirm that I'm understanding, I'm listening, I'm hearing, I'm taking in everything that you're saying in that moment for that particular part of what you're saying. And then you continue, and I might do it again, just to be like, I'm confirming that I'm hearing what you're saying. I might repeat something that you said so that I can show you that I'm actually actively listening. So like, I guess the interruption thing you can kind of take with a grain of salt because it's kind of like some people may use that in terms of active listening. So that's why I'm like, I guess it just really depends on who you are as a person to be like, I'm going to be completely silent. I'm going to give you direct eye contact. I'm not going to do anything out of the normal. And then when you're done, cool. Then it's my turn. I may have to interrupt, you know, like say something to prove to you that I'm listening. So people who are interrupting may not necessarily want to be interrupting in terms of like being rude or like to completely interrupt you, but like to show you that they're listening.
Yeah.
I think that's a part of active listening, though, being able to, you know, recite what they are sharing with you.
Right.
It's just finding the perfect time to insert yourself and say, hey.
That's the tricky thing, is trying to figure out the right time to like be like, I get you, I'm hearing you, I understand, you know, depending on the situation, giving something back that you already gave so that you know I heard what you said. And hearing versus listening is slightly different, you know, depending words. People's perspective on listening versus hearing. Is it going in? Are you just hearing it in one ear and it's going out the other? Or are you listening?
Yeah.
Or is hearing the reverse? You know, like everyone's perspective is different. So
I think organically, I know because of all the consent and all the permission and all the things that we do together, a lot of our communication when we do interrupt each other, it's like, I'm not finished, or I need to finish, or let me complete my thought. And we have a mutual understanding that that's not being disrespectful to each other. You know what I mean? Where like some people, you can be like, I'm not finished, and that can be a trigger, right? Or like, I'm not done speaking yet. All these different like hierarchical different labels, we've said it differently. You know, I'm like, and we've also become elevated and be like, I let you speak, I need you to let me speak. And we'll look at each other like, I got something to say to you when you finish. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, you know, think about like we talk about social normalities. To conclude, like when someone looks at me and like, I need to finish my thought, I'm like, cool. Like, thank you so much. I'm thinking to myself, oh, vulnerability, transparency. They're telling me what they need. I'm interrupting. That excites me.
Yeah.
That like stimulates me. I'm like, thank you for being so raw. You know, but and like you know, because you've been a leader in other organizations, for many organizations, so have you and so have you. There's a lot of people in the world where if you look at them and be like, you know, you're interrupting me right now. That's gonna be a trigger. They're gonna deflect. They want to talk about how they're not, you know, or you're gonna demean them, right? Or you're gonna dismiss them, or you're gonna put them in that box. It's gonna cave in, right? But to be around people you have mutual understandings of that type of communication, you know, like Bree, you said within your relationship or whatever you were mentioning is like, no, when I'm listening, I'm going to recite what you stated and talk about the feelings so you know I'm listening, you know?
Yeah, and that, I mean, it's weird. Like, to me, I feel like I need to be shown that you're listening.
What's
somehow.
weird to you? What's weird to you?
Like if that interrupting for some people could be appropriate, where in other situations and other people, it could be a trigger for a negative thing, which, like I said, each person's different, you know?
I think to me, it sounds like many people communicate, we listen the way that we like to be listened to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like when you're telling me, go ahead, Andrew.
We listen the way we were taught.
Yeah.
And you said something about that on the phone. Like when we talk about coming from a place of fear and how we love each other, like we do things that we've been taught.
Yeah.
That we've learned.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you said like, we do things we've been conditioned to do.
Yeah.
So we
Yes.
listen how we've been conditioned
And let me go further.
to listen.
Let me take it further.
You got the mic.
Can I take it further?
Go further. You got my consent.
I think that, like I said, I think that we listen the way that we like to be listened to, which is a lot of times the way we're conditioned to listen, right? So if, when you were growing up, maybe your parents, maybe they didn't listen the way that you were conditioned to listen. You might have adapted, and that was your conditioning. Now, some people, I think that all three of us, mostly, I don't know, you might not be quite as much as how the three of us do with the interrupting, because you're a very peaceful listener.
You guys.
She's a very, but that's why I say I'm not sure,
externally,
because I've seen you in both. You know what I mean? I've seen you in both.
You are a great listener.
She doesn't have to do a lot of head nods or a lot of audible cues. She doesn't do that as much as we do. That's why I say but she will say she don't play about her space. She reclaim her time.
Yeah.
Okay?
I will say you are a very attentive listener. And I think that in different,
People.
different versions of me, you pay so much attention to the words that you just wait.
Yeah.
You wait.
It's like, is she even
You know
breathing?
what I mean? So, but because I focus on growth and development and being so raw and genuine, authentic, now that I'm giving you raw and genuine, authentic Drew, you receive it a lot better than you had before, because there's that trust, there's that vulnerability, there's that transparency. So, baby's starting to wake up.
Smiling.
Baby's smiling. He loves the positive energy. I don't know what we're gonna speak about next week, but when we do, you'll find out. So.
Yes, y'all will find out. Are we done? Did we get
Yeah,
it?
we're at 50 minutes.
Direct versus aggressive.
Speaking.
Yeah. Speaking.
Give us a teaser.
Directly or
I've
aggressively.
come across a lot of situations where I may have come off as aggressive or rude.
Oh, direct, like what I did on my video the other day.
Yes, but what you touched on can dive so many
Further.
different directions.
Yeah. But direct and aggressive.
Yeah, so
Direct being
how
perceived
are
as
you
aggressive.
saying things so that it's direct and not perceived as aggressive or rude?
Yeah.
But you also can't force somebody to see things the way that you see them.
Yeah.
So if you say something directly and you definitely didn't mean it to be aggressive or definitely didn't mean it to be rude, I mean, even intonation can, be variables.
Yeah.
But you cannot sit there and expect everyone to feel the exact same way that you do about how you said something.
Right.
So it's kind of just like that fine line between, do you care too much that, what you said was so direct that it might have been aggressive, or do you not care about it?
He wants you or me.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like what you touched on, what you considered your rant could go even deeper.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
Probably hungry now, just waking up.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless you
We'll
don't
play
want
with
to
it.
touch on that.
No, we'll play with it. I don't know. Let's talk on the
It
phone.
could be a thing.
Because I feel like, we did all this uncovering and getting specific. Maybe I think we transition into coaching on some different habits and behaviors of acceptance, right? And
That's what a
who
lot of
we
it
are.
is.
Yeah.
Acceptance and surrender.
Yeah. I think.
And do you surrender to what people are thinking about how you said something?
Yeah.
Even in the simple aspect
Well,
of
do you
direct speaking.
Or do you just release the burden
into the world, and whoever perceives it with a negative connotation, cool.
That's their
whoever
problem.
doesn't,
That's their weight to carry.
whatever.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, do you care or do you not care? Caring and
Or
not
acceptance.
caring.
Or
Well,
surrender.
the beautiful thing about to be determined podcast
Yeah.
is sometimes the itinerary will be to be determined. You know what I'm saying?
There we go.
Catch us next week.
Period.
Peace.
Holla.